Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq. Joining us for this segment, we have Ajeet Singh, co-founder and executive chairman of Thoughtspot. Ajeet was also the co-founder of Nasdaq-listed Nutanix. We're going to discuss Thoughtspot's modern analytics cloud, a consumer-grade platform that allows organizations to engage with the new data ecosystem. Ajeet, it's great to have you with us. Welcome to Trade Talks.
Thanks for having me.
Let's start with your background and work from there.
Sure. Yeah, my background, first 5 to 6 years of my career, I was mostly working in large companies. Even there, I really enjoyed building things from scratch. I worked at Honeywell, where we took a very design-first approach for building a software for aerospace industry. So I got exposed to design and the power it has on impacting people and users with technology very, very early in my career. And when I came to the Valley in 2007, I worked at Oracle, then I worked at one of the early big data companies. And after that, I've been an entrepreneur, first Nutanix and then Thoughtspot. And those lessons from my Honeywell days when design was so powerful were a very, very big part of both Nutanix and Thoughtspot, and how we can solve some really big problems by simplifying users' life by new design, making it easy for them to do their jobs.
So Ajeet, what was the genesis behind co-founding Nutanix?
The genesis, the idea of Nutanix was really inspired by Google, how Google had built software to run their own data centers, pretty much like a cloud, because they didn't go to traditional vendors like Cisco and EMC to buy a lot of servers and storage and networking. That would be very complex and it wouldn't scale. And we said, how do we simplify data centers? And that's how we came up with the idea of Nutanix to build this enterprise cloud software that would allow companies of all sizes, small, medium, big, to run these clouds internally like AWS, so they can be very operationally efficient and secure. And also it can be a very cost-effective way of managing their data centers.
And you successfully brought Nutanix public, and of course that can be really challenging. Why leave that to start Thoughtspot, and what experience did you bring with you from Nutanix?
Yeah, so the idea of Thoughtspot actually came from the company I worked at before starting Nutanix, Astrodata. It was one of the early big data companies. It was the time when Hadoop was starting. There were a number of this big data companies that were making it easier and easier to store lots and lots of data, cheaper, faster, better. But what I saw was that how the data was used by the businesses, by the users to make sales, marketing, finance, HR decisions, that was still very old school. It was a very dashboard-centric, very manual way of doing things. So here, once again, we were inspired by Google, and we said, why does data have to be so hard? What can we do to simplify it? So the lessons from Nutanix, I would say, one, going after a very large market with a very meaningful problem. That's something I'm very passionate about. So both the companies have done that. And solving these very difficult problems with a design-first approach by simplifying people's life. That I think goes a long way, because technology has become so hard and so complex. You want to make it easy. And if you can make things easier for them, they're really willing to adopt it and pay for it.
Tell us about Thoughtspot's modern analytics cloud, what the company's mission is, and what's next for Thoughtspot.
Yeah, so our mission is to make the world more fact-driven. We believe that a fact-driven world is a better world, because in today's age of social media and mobile phones, opinions can fly around very, very quickly, and that happens in businesses too. And what's really going on is there is this new modern data stack companies are building in the cloud, because the old school way of running your data stack with a dashboarding tool like Tableau or Power BI, and on the back end, an Oracle or Exadata or Teradata, that model doesn't scale. So as companies are moving from Oracle and Teradata to modern technologies like Snowflake or Google BigQuery or Databricks, there is a need to also have a front end that can be used to make the business better, because businesses are trying to transform themselves digitally and they want to make decisions very, very fast. If you only move your data layer to a Snowflake, but in the front end, you still use a Tableau dashboard, that's a very backwards way of doing things. You are not going to get the advantages of actually moving to the cloud, which is number one thing is velocity. You're not going to get velocity. You're not going to get flexibility. With ThoughtSpot Modern Analytics Cloud, any user, anyone in the company can ask their own questions. We have a new kind of search engine that enables people to ask questions just like you would in Google and get instant answers, as opposed to being restricted by this dashboard. We actually say dashboards are dead because they're so static and predefined. And we also have built a lot of core AI-based technology that can uncover insights from these vast amounts of data that is being accumulated in the cloud. You can't really hire enough people to go through all the data and find the insights that you need to run your business. So with search and AI, we make it really easy for people to get value from their investments in the cloud and make their businesses better.
And Ajeet, to wrap up here, what lessons have you learned having founded two companies?
There is a lot of lessons, and I've had my fair share of ups and downs in this. I would say a couple of lessons. One, going after really, really large markets. That is something that I really enjoy. And if you are able to identify, as an entrepreneur, if you're able to identify a large market with a big problem, it gives you the ability to iterate on the solution, because things will change. The world is changing so fast. You can't have a fixed, rigid view of what the solution should be. The second one is, it sounds like a cliche, but it is true that it is all about the people that you're able to recruit and inspire. As a leader, as an entrepreneur, you can have a lot of great ideas. You can even raise money. But unless you're able to build a really strong team around you and build a strong culture, which allows everyone to participate in this amazing process of company building, you can't really go far. And I think we've done a decent job of both of these things at Nutanix and Thoughtspot.
Well, Ajeet, I think you bring up a great point, because it feels as if branding and storytelling is part of the strategy right these days. But part of that is, actually all of it is, you have to be able to execute on that story, right? So it's one thing to have a great PR machine and have a great story to tell and all that, but executing and delivering is just as important, if not more so.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's why this whole phenomenon of product-led growth has become so mainstream, that it is all about the product. Unless your product or service, whether it's in the consumer world or in enterprise, unless it delivers real value for the customers, you can't really hire, great marketing people or amazing salespeople who can go and sell shelfware. You need to have product that speaks for itself and it makes a difference in people's life. That is absolutely true. So you got to execute, you got to deliver value to your customers and to your users. And that is how you truly grow these days.
All right. Ajeet, appreciate the advice as well as the insight. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.
Thanks for having me, Jill.